Good afternoon. I am Tony Dottino, founder of the USA Memory Championship and the president of Dottino Consulting Group. And I want to go over today something I've read over the weekend that came out of the October issue of UCLA's Healthy Years. And what was interesting about a particular piece of research that has now been reported is the impact of the difference between negative thinking and how it impacts the potential for dementia, Alzheimer's, and memory loss. And it's so obvious to me, and I've seen it happen for years. And so I want to go over something that I've learned to do and how I've worked with my clients and people that have been a part of workshops I've done on the Brain Power series, and how we pick some of this up in the Maximum Memory Mastery online course, and some of the additions that we're making to that course that I just think are life-changing differences, not just in how to improve our memory, but the things that surround itself around it that have an impact on our brain health as well as our physical health. So I want to go over this article that came out of the UCLA Health newsletter for October, and it says, persistent negative thinking may raise the risk for dementia. So if we are persistently in a negative thinking mode, it has an impact, as the study is reflecting on patterns that we then put into our brain and we ruminate on. We process and process and process. So ruminating on them means we keep building them, and we keep them in our brains, and we keep reflecting on them. And we worry about the future, we reflect on the past, and we lose present thinking on it. We lose what I call grabbing onto the things that can be positive, that may help us to break through and get through some of these things. So one of the aspects that we're dealing with now in the COVID-19 world is so much stuff is coming out of our daily news about the COVID and ages and kids and back to school. If we just listen to the news just once a day, be it anywhere from the political environment that we're currently in, or people that are losing their jobs, we're not in the most positive environment possible. So what can you do about that? I mean, you can, oh God, I just say to people sometimes, let's look at our options, and let's not choose the worst of all options, which is, hey, let's just go dig a hole and jump in it. Let's figure out, what do we have up here that gives us the ability to create pathways and roadways that take us out of it. And no sooner do we talk about that than here we go. The research has found that people who exhibit higher repetitive thinking patterns, higher repetitive negative thinking, and ruminate about the past and worry about the future, have exhibited more cognitive decline over a 4-year period of time. That can be linked to a decline in memory, and may begin to be another cause of dementia and or Alzheimer's. Now, life is bad enough right now without losing what I have up here. And I always think about my dad. My dad's, if I had one bit of advice I'd tell my dad was just extraordinary, is he always said, Anthony, if you've got your health, then what you have here will figure out what you need to do. And he's a short Italian man that, my God, I wish he were alive today. I could say, Dad, where did you get that wisdom from? Meaning, if you maintain and can keep your health, then what you have up here will figure it out. And so I've always worried about, and if anything, focused on my health, my nutritional habits, my exercise habits, proactive doctor appointments and things. And I've learned through the work I've done over the last 20 years, the importance of not persistent negative thinking that now science is suggesting man, there's one more item you can put on the checklist for mild cognitive impairment that leads you to dementia, depression, anxiety, put them all together, and it's not good for your brain health and memory, and it's not good for your overall mental fitness. And what was interesting is I go back to my first book, right? My first book, which is no longer in print, where I wrote, on page 32, synergy follows a GIGG process, meaning the rumination we have in our brains follows a process of GIGG. And GIGG can be one of two choices. And actually, through my work, I have discovered it's one of three choices. GIGG can be garbage in to a brain that's ruminating, meaning it's processing and has this infinite capacity. Garbage into a brain, garbage in, garbage will grow. So the synergy of repetitive negative thinking just grows a whole breakdown of not just your body and your immune systems, but the physicality of your brain and body as well. And so we can add all the stuff we're dealing with today and throw one more thing, which is worry about our brain health as opposed to being more proactive about our brain health. And there are things that we can do. And we're not in a Pollyanna world today. I'm not in the world today where, hey, suck it up and get with it. I'm in a world today of empathy and compassion, but learning some new skills, learning some new ways to climb through some of the challenges that we're being faced with at the present time, and grab onto something that brings you forward and pulls you out of the quicksand, or might pull you out of a sinking situation, and just grab that one thing, just grab one thing that you can pull into that. And so I go back to my first book, right, the Brain Smart Leader, and I'm just so fortunate. I've had a number of people over the years. Now, this book was put out 20 years ago, which is like, whoa, this is like a history book now. It's like hard to believe this was done 20 years ago. It feels like I wrote it yesterday. But good in good grows towards positive outcomes. So we can change the first position, G, and we can change it from garbage in, the garbage grows, to good in and good will grow. So now, what is my lesson to you? What are the inputs that you are putting into your brain? And are you optimizing the creativity that we all naturally possess and thinking about what are some of the good things that I can create from it? Let me grab onto somebody's hand, let me grab onto a thought, and let me change the synergy from my anxiety and depression to the things that are impacting me in a negative way. Break that negative pattern of thinking, and let me get myself into a pattern of what are some of the things that can pull me out of the quicksand that I could begin to do one day and one step at a time, not looking to run a marathon race, but what can I grab onto that allows me to live it a day and a day and a day. And let me see at the end of 3 months where that process has taken me. And so I wrote about this back then. And then fortunately, through the work I've done with my clients and folks, I got to write a second book. Hey, that was good. I got to write a second book called Grassroots Leaders. And what I address with people is the answer to the question here: what are some of the typical responses you have to when things are not going in your direction? And it's amazing when I ask people to reflect. So when things are, you're hitting bumps in the road, or you're taking a dip in the roller coaster ride, what are the responses that you're mentally saying to yourself, and what are the responses that you're putting out into the atmosphere? And it's that combination of what you're saying to yourself and what you're verbalizing into the atmosphere that have a longer term impact on your brain health, your physical health, and as UCLA is now telling us 20 years later, is going to have an impact on your ability to remember, retain, and hold on to things. And that might lead you towards early mild cognitive impairment, that may lead you to dementia, that may lead you to Alzheimer's. And do you need one more thing to throw on top of the pile? So what I say to people, look, I offer this to my Live with Tony audience. If any of you are caught in that negative spiral of garbage in and garbage is growing and you just got things, send me an email. I want to make a difference in people's lives. 20 years later, 20 years ago, right? I wrote about this with Tony Buzan and Richard Israel, and 20 years later, I'm still talking to people about it because stuff happens and it comes at us on a daily basis. It's how do we process that in our own internal synergistic mode of thinking and rumination that makes the world of difference with people who get knocked down, dust off their backside, and get back up versus people who get knocked down and just stay down. So I'm more than happy to confer with anybody on a personal level. If you'd like, send me an email at adottino@aol.com. If that you're not comfortable, you can send me a note and say, hey, Tony, could you please give me a call? And we'll get on the phone. And let's see if we can make a difference in your life and make it simple and fun. Have some fun with this and see if we can have that impact. To change what UCLA is confirming, something I've worked on for 20 years, but they're confirming, we've got to stay out of that negative spiral. So this is my Tuesday, 3 p.m. Live with Tony. I'll be back on tomorrow, Wednesday, in the 7 o'clock time period. Enjoy the rest of your day, and we'll see you then.